Hello. So today we're going to be making some adorable in the hoop T-Rex stuffed toys. So here is one. This is the biggest size right here. This is the 8x12 size. These are by Ohana Applique Designs. I will link below the pattern. This is the smallest size. This is our the 4x4. The really cool thing about the 4x4s is you can just add ribbon before you do the last tack down, face down, and then you can turn it into a little keychain for their backpacks. This is a 2 hooping in the hoop machine embroidery pattern, which means you will do 1 hoop and stitch it out, which will be hoop 1 in the file. You will remove it from the hoop and restabilize and do your 2nd hoop. I used medium weight tearaway stabilizer for my stuffies. If you find that the design has heavy fill, I will actually put scrap tearaway wherever there might be heavy fill. If there's super dense fill for, say, eyes or mouth or something like that. But this design, I just used a single layer of tearaway stabilizer. You will need, I prefer minky or fleece. Minky or fleece are my 2 favorite fabrics for stuffed animals, stuffed creatures, because they have a little bit of a give to them, but not too much, and they're super soft and cuddly. You can also use quilter cottons and flannel, but if you choose to use those, make sure when you cut around the design, you're leaving a good at least 1/2 inch, if not more, seam allowance, because those tend to unravel and you don't want to cut too close. It will unravel. So that's another reason why I like these fabrics, because they don't unravel, they don't fray, they stay whole. So I'm going to do the 5x7 hoop. I cut out 4 6x8 pieces of my minky. So 2 of these are going to be for my first hoop, which will be my legs, my arms, and my tail. And my 2nd hoop, it'll go for the main body. I will add all of my detail to it. We will add our limbs and external pieces, and then we'll put a piece on top as our back. I have 1 extra piece of scrap fabric here. This is going to go for the tummy area that you see here, the little tummy area. And I have a 2nd piece here, and this is going to go for the snout area. One thing I will mention, on hoop 1, you will have a placement stitch. You do not have to put that on your fabric. You can put it on your stabilizer, or you can hoop your fabric and you can put it on there. The placement stitch is more for if you're really trying to preserve your fabric, which is smart, and you don't want to waste anything, and you might want different color arms and legs, and so then you would do the placement stitch on your tearaway stabilizer, and then you can take your fabric choices and put them over the different pieces that you want. For speed purposes, and because I do this so often, I'm going to go ahead and just skip the first step. I'm going to take 2 pieces of my super soft minky fabric here, and I'm putting pretty sides together like this. So I have the wrong side on either side here, and I'm going to go ahead and place this over my embroidery hoop. This is called floating. It's where you don't actually hoop it, you just float it over the hoop. So if you see here, the first step, I'll do it white so that you can see. The first step is just a placement stitch. It's just going to show you. So if you wanted to have the legs a different color or the tail a different color, you could do the placement stitch on the stabilizer, and then you can put your fabrics together over that. I'm just going to have it all the same exact color, so I'm going to actually skip that. Second thing I want to mention to you is these are called open. If you look really close, I don't know if you'll be able to see that, really close right there. There's an opening in the arms. There's an opening in the tail. I'm sorry, these are your arms right here. And there's an opening in those arms. And these are your feet right here. And there's an opening. The point of that is so when you turn it right side out and you put it on your second hooping, you don't have to worry about the bulk of stuffing. It just lays nice and flat. It's a lot smoother. The downside is you do have extra hand stitching that you have to do. All right, so this is hoop 1. That's it. You have feet, which have three toes, and you have hands, which have their 2 fingers, because it's a T-Rex. You got your openings. So what I like to do is I will actually work on cutting all these out while my second hooping is stitching. So for my second hooping, I do like to have my fabric down for the first stitch. And the reason for that is the first stitch for me in my designs, at least for in the hoop stuffed plushy toys, the first stitch will hold it all in place. It's actually bigger than the final stitch so that you can't see it peeking through, but I like it there because it'll hold everything down. So I went ahead and ran step 1 on my stabilizer on my fabric, and it's just, again, it'll just hold it all in place, so even if anything else gets on there, it'll be fine. It's also just a great guide, like when we're done cutting everything out. I use this is where the opening will be, and I use this as a sewing guide for when I close and I sew up. It also helps with that, for me at least. Step 2 is your placement for your tummy. Now, if you're using quilter cotton like I am, it is highly recommended to go ahead and use Heat and Bond light. Heat and Bond light. You don't want to get heavy, you want to get light, so that it helps prevent it from fraying. I like to live on the wild side, so I'm not going to. I might cry later, but I haven't had any issues with it at this time. Oh, I hear my little girl coming downstairs. And there we go. So step 3, Mommy. Hold on, baby girl. Step 3 is going to tack it in place. Okay, my little girl wanted a banana, so I sent her on. Do not mind my super messy desk. Y'all crafters, you know how it is. Maybe you don't. I don't know. Maybe you're OCD. I wish I was a little bit more OCD. I tend to craft. Oh, these are double curved. These are double curved shears. I just got them on Amazon. They weren't all that much. I think, I want to say $14 or $15. Yes, babe, you can have an apple instead. That's fine. And I just like them because they get in that hoop really, really well. Although these ones need to be sharpened soon. And we do a very wide satin stitch in my opinion, but I still like to trim it up real nice and close. Little tip of the trade. If you don't know, I get these at the dollar store, the little lint rollers, and they're awesome for stuffies. Well, they're awesome for in the hoop goodies because they will just clean that right up. Bam. So pretty. Yeah. So let's move on. That was your step 3. And you trim around that applique. Step 4 is going to be your placement stitch for your snout. So you can see a little placement stitch here. I'm going to go ahead and take my, it's another Minky. I just love Minky. It's just so soft. My kids all snuggle up to my stuffed animals at nighttime. Step 5 is your tack down. After this, we're going to take it to the table and trim it. A lot of my fabrics I get from Joann's when they have a sale. I try to stock up then, especially for my minkies. But I know that one of my testers, Wonderful Mary, if you are all in my fan group or my Facebook group, you will know her very well. She is such a sweetheart. I love her to death. But Wonderful Mary, she gets a lot of her stuff on Amazon because she lives in Canada. And I don't know if she has a Joann's near her, or the prices are not the same as here in the US. So again, I'm trimming nice and close. Hard to believe this is going to be a T-Rex and not an adorable bear, right? Look at that. Doesn't that look like it's supposed to be a teddy bear? How cute. We do have a teddy bear, by the way, already, but that does look like a teddy bear to me. This is where, what step is this? This is step number 6. And this is where I'm going to put water-soluble stabilizer on top. And you can just tape it in place if you want. I'm going to rewind and go back to step 1 so that it'll just go over that placement, that first run all the way around my bear so that it's holding it on in place for all the rest of these detail stitches. So I'll do that. So there is my water soluble stabilizer. I use the clear kind. I find that it just rips out super duper easy. So this is step 6. The next so many steps are going to be all your detail stitches. So the next step, which is step 6, is going to be your eyelashes. This is an optional thing. I do these for all my stuffed animals now. My older designs, you will not find this as a feature, but today you will find this as a feature. So step 6 is going to be your lashes, and step 7 will be the actual eyes themselves and the nostrils to your T-Rex. So it's moving on to the eyes. And that's kind of why I chose to go ahead and put the water-soluble stabilizer on the whole thing. Because right now, it's going to do the eyes. So see this one here, I skipped the lashes. There are no lashes on this one. I just skipped step 6. And this one here, I ran step 6. And then step 7 is the eyes itself and the nose. Step 8 is your mouth fill. It's not really a fill. It is more like a shadowing. You can do it in black, you can do it in red. Let's see. I went with black with this one. See, you can see through it, and that's intentional. That's going to make this a little bit quicker than a full heavy fill, and it'll stuff better. And this one I did in red. So you can do it in red, you can do it in black, you can do it in pink, whatever color you want the inside of your mouth to be. Step 9 is going to be your teeth and the twinkle in the eyes. So while that all stitches, I'm going to go ahead and tear away all this, I'm going to tear it out of my arms and legs and cut around them. You don't have to, it's not mandatory to tear it out. Our friend Mary actually leaves hers in, I believe, and she does a lot more of these than I do. It's a personal preference. I like it not in there. I find, for me, I find it smoother. One tip is make sure that you leave extra tag here where that opening is, if you do choose to do the opening file. And all this will be on your PDF photo tutorial that we have for this file as well. I do try to do a photo tutorial for all of my stuffies, plushies, because I find that they're helpful. And then where you see it's creased, or the corners, you want to cut up as close as you can without actually snipping those threads. And this just makes for a much smoother turning. It's more crisp. I have everything cut out. I have my 2 little hands, my tail, and my 2 little feet. One thing that I absolutely love, and I use almost on every stuffie, if not on every stuffie, are called hemostats. Again, I'll link it below. I got these on Amazon. They were like $5, I think. I use them all the time. These things are so awesome. And for me, I'll go ahead and do a little one. You just stick it in, you grab a piece of fabric, and you pull, and that's it. You don't have to worry about taking your fingers in there, especially if you got chunky fingers like I have right now. I'm so swollen. And you drink more water. And then you just push it out. They're great because they're dull, so they don't poke through any of your stitches. And they have little teeth, so they really grip that fabric. And then you can pretend to be a little T-Rex. I'm gonna get you. That's one way. That's the way I do it. The second way, if the opening is big enough, and it's all based on the size of your hoop. So this is the 5x7. I could not get my finger in there. That's too tiny. And honestly, the 4x4, this one here, the legs and the arms do not have an open option. They're too tiny. The tail does have an open option where you can sew it here, but the arms and the legs do not have an open option. The 5x7 on have an open option for all the limbs. The second way to do it I learned from Mary, and hopefully I do it justice. I could do this wrong. I should do it with the big one just so that it's easier. So I think you pucker up one of the sides, and you want to get your dowel in there, and then you push your dowel through, and that's your second way to do it, is using a dowel. So if you have any dowels around, and then you can use that to push everything out. Again, it's dull enough, you're not going to have to worry about it poking any holes. So that was pretty easy too. I'll try it on the smaller one. I've never used this method. I've always had my hemostats. So again, you're going to want to kind of, I pinched it and moved it so that the dowel can be pushed on it, and then poke it through the hole. There we go. And then you get your two little claws. That's not bad. Thanks, Mary. Thumbs up if you know Mary. I'm going to go ahead and finish these off. I only have the tail and this one more hand to do. And the third way, I'm sorry, I started to say this and then I totally spaced. If it is big enough, you can just stick your finger in there, and then I use my other finger, so I'm pinching it. That's my thumb right there. It's pinched, and then I pinch it and I push it through like that. It's basically the same theory as the wooden dowel, but it's using your hands instead if you can. So again, these are the open ones. They have an opening on the side of them. When you place them on your design, which I think it's ready, so let's go ahead and go over there and see. Yay, it is. Let's come over here to my messy desk. Gonna move that chair. So the difference between open and it just won't have anything extra on it. It'll just be the name of the design. The ones that are just the name of the design actually open on the end here, and you'll pre-stuff them, and then you put them over their placement stitches. I don't know if I tried to use black thread so that you can see that placement stitch. So there's a placement stitch arm, there's your tail, leg, leg, arm. So the ones that are just the regular file name, you'll pre-stuff them, and don't overstuff them, because you will need your embroidery needle to go all the way around this at the very end. That's why I like open so much, because it stays flat. There's less likely any kind of pull or any kind of issues to it. The downside, again, you do have to do more hand stitching at the end, but I would prefer that over having not stuffed limbs, or possibly my needle catching the design and pulling it out of the hoop, which would be really sad for me. When you're putting on your limbs, your extra pieces, it's good to set it out the way that you want it to look. So that's how I want it to look at the end. And then you flip it down. And that's how you're going to stitch it over these next few stitches. And it will stitch arm, tail, leg, leg. And after this leg, because this leg goes in as well, you're going to have a little stitch at the top here. And the point of that is so that it doesn't run over this leg and pull it out. There'll just be a little extra stitch here, and then it'll go to this arm here. So this is where it's going to go up to the top. Whoops. And it's going to do a little stitch. It's not a lot. It's just there to move your needle where I wish it to go, basically, so that it doesn't pull on this leg here. So we'll do the last one. Tape it in place, ladies, and gents. don't use your hands. I've seen so many needles in fingers, it's scary. Right, I'm moving away because I was getting my last piece of fabric here. Oops. And this is our second to last step, and I say it that way because you'll notice in your file or in your JPEG that there will be a little star after this step. That is a stopping star. That means do not go any further. That is there so that your needle does not re-center at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and take my Minky, place it pretty side down. You can take pins, which is what I'm going to do. I like to pin it in place. And when you pin it in place afterward, you can look underneath and see if any of your pins are where you're going to be stitching, because you stitched that first stitch, and that this last step, or second to last step, will be inside of that, just inside of that. So hopefully I'm not, well, we'll know in a minute. Not the easiest thing to do on these hoops. Okay, so then you can turn it over and you can see there's 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and none of it is where that outline is, so we're good. So I'm going to go ahead and run that second to last step, which is your final tack down. Okay, so second to last step. Again, this is something I've done over the last probably 10 so many stuffies. I've added this extra stitch. It's so wonderful, especially if you're on a single needle, which I do have my single needle over there, and I do sometimes use it still whenever I have a large order to fulfill for a classroom or something, but otherwise I use it more for sewing clothing for the kids. But yeah, this second to last step, it's going to stop it right there. It's just an itty bitty, so sorry about that. It's just an itty bitty tiny star. dink, right there in the corner, and it just stops your machine from going any further. You can now safely remove this design from your embroidery hoop. So I've already removed the stabilizer. Again, personal preference, I just like it gone. And then again, you're gonna leave a little tail right here. Oh, sorry, I was out of the screen. You're gonna leave a little tail where the opening is and cut around your design. You wanna leave it like 1/4 of an inch or more if you want. Mary will tell you in her videos, she leaves a lot of this on. It works for her. For me, I don't know why it bugs me. Maybe I do have a little bit of OCD, I don't know. But it's just a personal preference thing. It's not a big deal in my book. And again, wherever you see the little sharp corners, you're gonna want to do snips in, but not the actual thread itself. And this just helps make those corners much more crispy. If you were doing this with quilter cotton, I highly recommend using pinking shears instead. I got these at my local craft store. They were the generic ones, and it'll just cut it in that zigzag instead. It'll help prevent fraying, honestly, or it frays together and locks. I don't know. It works. I should have prefaced this whole video with, I am not, you know, a 20-year experienced embroiderist. I'm learning as I go. You know, I'm constantly learning. I like to learn. It's a beautiful thing. Normally I tear all that out, and I totally forgot to do that. See, when I'm chit-chatting, I lose my norm, man. Especially since my daughter came in and my husband's come home since I started this video. It's time for me to go cook dinner. So that's it right there. Now you're gonna stuff your limbs. You're gonna stuff your T-Rex, and then you'll tuck those little tails in, and you'll hand stitch those clothes. I prefer a ladder stitch. I know Mary, for these, and I actually did it with my large one, she'll do a whip stitch instead because it's kind of furry, right? Minky has some fur to it, and the whip stitch you can't see when there's fur. If you're doing this in flannel or quilter cotton, the ladder stitch is much more smoother looking, but you'll just stuff those and sew those up. I cannot show you how to stuff and sew it up right now because, again, I gotta go cook dinner, and B, I'm out of stuffing. I need to go to the store and get more stuffing. I didn't realize I was so low. So that is the largest size. That is the 8x12. You can see how big it is. This is the smallest size. This is the 4x4. Teeny tiny cutie pie. And this is the 5x7, still a really great size in my book. 5x7s, when I sold finished products, were my biggest seller because of the price, and they're still a great size. And I will see you guys later. Let me know below what design you would like for me to show a video on how to make.